Yo, it's almost the start of the NFL season. We're in preseason. Everything's rounding into shape. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I've ever been more excited. I'm ready to try and make everybody some free money this season. Ready to lock in. Been watching the tape and grinding. Been paying attention to the off season. Thank God my boy Ashton Genty is healthy. Real shit. Thank God. But today, it's almost a little bit of inspiration from a guy I used to watch on YouTube. If you know ball, you know. He used to do a segment called "Making the Case," and it was about all of these NBA players and whether or not they were, have a case as the greatest player of all time. And I want to do that today, but for my NFL division winners slash playoff predictions. So for all of my division winners, today we're going to do making the case. And we will start off with the AFC West, where unfortunately I have the Kansas City Chiefs winning the AFC West. I think it's a huge deal that they last year. I think people forget how injured the Chiefs were last year. And as somebody who's been a Raider fan my whole life, as you can tell, and been watching this team in this division, it's hard for me not to pick Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes to win this division. I think people forget how injured the offensive line was last season. Of course, we still don't trust the receiving core whatsoever. But you got to think, we saw Patrick Mahomes win an MVP and win a Super Bowl with, what I would consider historically disappointing wide receiving cores, right? And if you have a healthy offensive line and the addition of Kenneth Walker, who I think his addition is getting a little bit overblown. It's not like he's some, world-changing, gigantic, end of the world kind of thing. He's a really good player, though. And if you get that offensive line back and you have, anytime that you have a healthy Creed Humphrey and what's his name? God damn it, Trey Smith. Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey in the interior are unbelievable run blockers. If Josh Simmons is healthy, and I really like the young kid they have, Kingsley Suamataia. Let me know if I pronounced that right, because I doubt it, but it was worth a shot. But if you can actually give Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid a reliable offensive output from their running back, I think that can be a huge difference maker. Like, Patrick Mahomes has never had a 1,000-yard rusher. I believe that's true. I don't think he's ever had a 1,000-yard rush in his career. I think Kareem Hunt came close and then got kicked off the team. But, I would like to see what Mahomes looks like, where they have to actually put some extra guys in the box and, have some, spend a little bit more attention and, prepping throughout the week on being worried about the running game as opposed to worrying about Rashee Rice being in jail, right? I don't think that their defensive personnel is particularly impressive. They lost Leo Chenal. That's bad. And, they lost they drafted what's his name? Mansour Delane, and they picked up L'Jarius Sneed. They lost Trent McDuffie in that trade, but that's how they got Mansour Delane. And knowing Steve Spagnuolo, that guy's unbelievable at making corners look awesome, developing talent. I 100% still believe in this defense. I think the kid that they drafted in the first round this year on the front seven is going to be a fucking monster. And the assumption is that you're going to still be able to be, even with disappointing personnel on defense, that Steve Spagnuolo is going to make that look great. And Andy Reid with now a healthy offensive line, assuming a healthy Patrick Mahomes, I have them winning this division. And I think it's going to be an unbelievably tough division. I think that my Raiders are finally going to be decent. I think that the Broncos still have the best roster in that division. And the Chargers are an unbelievable team who now have Mike McDaniel. That's no joke, but that's my case for the Kansas City Chiefs. Healthy offensive line, middling to lower level receiving core, but Patrick Mahomes will make him look good. One last hurrah from Travis Kelce, and Steve Spagnuolo making this defense still look great. The next team that I want to start covering in terms of making the case for another division winner, we're going to go to the AFC East in the Buffalo Bills. I think that the Patriots can be a better team and take a step back. I assume that the Bills will split with them in division. The offense is still going to be great. You have Josh Allen. He still has Joe Brady. Your OC didn't go anywhere. Now he's the head coach. I think he's going to have a little bit more freedom in terms of how he wants to, make this offense run. I could see this team being 12-5 or 13-4. Who knows? The start of their schedule is absolutely brutal, right? And when I'm going through and I'm evaluating these teams, when you look at the start of the schedule, like that's a rough one. They have some real shit they gotta fight through at the beginning of the year. But You also get 2 years, 2 games a year against the Dolphins and 2 games a year against the Jets. There's 4 wins right there, right? You add in DJ Moore, who's a proven wide receiver one. Whatever you think of DJ Moore, he's at least we can guarantee a proven commodity as being a good wide receiver. And when Josh Allen has good wide receivers, Josh Allen plays good football. And you have James Cook, who, whether or not you think he's the best running back in the league, whether or not you think he's the fifth best running back in the league, he's one of the best running backs in the league, right? I think he led the league in rushing last year. They have an awesome offensive line. There's no reason that their offense shouldn't be top 5, top 6 in the league. A healthy Josh Allen, they should win this division. Now, their pass rush, it should be all right. Their pass rush should be good. Their linebacker room is solid, right? Corner room, not great. I mean, your corner room is looking real questionable on the Bills. You have to hope that the young kid that they have, who I can't remember, who's hella fast, you're gonna have to hope that that kid can develop into being a solid corner too. Safety room is all right with Cole Bishop and what's his name over there? Can't remember his name, but secondary's questionable. Pass rush and linebackers should be cool, but I mean, if you have the 16th best defense, you're assuming the departure of Sean McDermott is going to make this defense worse, right? But if you take that and then you just assume that they have, the sixth best offense and you have the 14th best defense, like you should be able to still win a ton of games with Josh Allen at quarterback. And that's going to be my case for the Bills. Is the Patriots better team, worse record? The Bills storm back, win this division. A lot of easy wins in division. Probably split with the Patriots, but just run the hell out of the ball. Teams have to worry about DJ Moore over the top now. I like the Bills. That's my case. The next team I want to come on here and make a case for is in the AFC North. And I know that this is a trendy pick, and a lot of people are picking the Bengals to win the division. But I think my hot take for this season this year is that if Joe Burrow plays the entire season, which kind of feels like at this point saying if Kawhi Leonard's healthy, so I really hope it's not the case, and I hope this isn't a cop-out, right? But if Joe Burrow plays this year, I think the Bengals are going to win 13 or 14 games. And I think that Joe Burrow is going to be a top 3 MVP finisher if he's healthy. And I think that they can be a top 2 seed in the AFC, maybe the 1 seed in the AFC. Here's my thing: when it comes to defense, me personally, this is me making my case for the Bengals, right? Because I think they're winning the division. I'm pretty high on them. The offensive line still has questions, but you have Chase Brown, who's a good to above average running back, right? You have a fantastic wide receiver room. Wide receiver room is great. Tight end room is solid, right? But this offense should be fantastic. If Joe Burrow stays on his own 2 feet for most of the year and even just plays 15 games, 14 games, you can still win a lot of football games. But if Joe Burrow's healthy this season, I don't see why they can't be great. The defense to me has always been the biggest problem, right? And you add Dexter Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Jonathan Allen, Brian Cook, and I loved that they drafted Cassius Howell. I thought that he was underrated. I think he can have a monster season this year. I don't know about monster, but a good season this year, right? If their offense is the third best offense in the league, and they can get that defense to go from being the worst in the league to being, like I said, with the Bills, 14th, 16th, 13th. If they can somehow get an average defense, I think they're going to be unstoppable. I think the regular season is going to be unbelievable. I think that losing Trey Hendrickson, I feel like a lot of people were higher on Trey Hendrickson than I am. I think he was a guy who put up good numbers and was a good player, but at the end of the day, I don't think that losing him was a huge deal. I think that they got much better in the front seven. And me personally, it's tough to say that I believe in this team so much with what I'm about to say, which is that when I think of building a football team, I think of building the front seven on defense and your offensive line, right? On offense, they have everything else figured out except the offensive line. On defense, in my opinion, as long as you can figure out the front seven, as long as you can manufacture a great pass rush, if you have a smart DC, you can figure it out. Having awesome corners is fantastic. Having awesome secondary guys is unbelievable, right? But at the end of the day, to me, what matters the most is whether or not you can get to the quarterback. And if they can't get to the quarterback with Dexter Lawrence, Boye Mafe, Jonathan Allen, Cassius Howell, they have a multitude of guys to throw at you in the front seven now. And I think that if that is the case and Joe Burrow is healthy, I don't see why they can't be the 1 seed in the AFC. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying that if the Bengals can get competent production from their front seven, they're going to be a great football team. I think that Joe Burrow is primed to have another monster season if he stays healthy, and that's my case for the Bengals. We can move on to the AFC South, which was harder than I felt like it should have been. But I want to make the case for the Houston Texans. Now, when I looked at these teams, I've always been a little bit higher on the Jags than I think people think. I think the Colts are going to be better than people think. Obviously, those are the two teams that, matter in that division. But the Texans, to me, have a much easier schedule than the Jags, right? And are going to have an unbelievable defense. You just can't you can't count them out in any game because there's a chance that they can hold your favorite team to 7 points or 6 points or 10 points. They can hold teams to single digits in the regular season. And I think that this is a real make or break year for CJ Stroud, but they just have a monster defense. And I like the addition of David Montgomery. I like that they just picked up Keyshawn Boutte today. Their wide receiver room seemingly is cursed. Their offensive line is probably going to be a heaping mound of doo-doo. But if you can just score 14 points a game, you can still win 11 games with this team. Like, their defense is going to be so good that if you can block for David Montgomery and just run the ball and play awesome defense, and D'Amico Ryans is, to me, truly a defensive genius. And I think that a lot of people think of the modern NFL as an offensive league, and it's hard for me to argue that when I just told you that I think the Bengals are going to be the 1 seed, but it's because of their defense. And if you really look at it these days, there's a lot of guys who are just defensive geniuses in today's game, and D'Amico Ryans is one of those guys. When you watch D'Amico Ryans call a football game, you have no idea what's coming. There's blitzes, there's zone, there's man. I really like their 4th round pick. I think that he is solid. Their 4th round pick is legit. And if he can give them starter level production, which I think is why they just traded away I can't remember if it's Petrie or what his name is, but they just traded away one of their safeties to go get Keyshawn Boutte. I'm assuming that's because the safety that they drafted is playing at the level that I think he's going to play this year, which is very good. I thought he was a good sleeper coming out of the draft. And you just can't count this team out in any game. And it's just, if you look at D'Amico Ryans is a Mike McDonald. He is a defensive genius, right? And a lot of these teams in the league these days, it's going to be up to how good your defense can play. And the Texans defense, in my opinion, has an opportunity to be the Legion of Boom, has an opportunity to be, the Steel Curtain, has an opportunity to be the Purple People Eaters. And that would be my case for the Texans this year. I'm taking the Texans to win that division. Give me 10 to 12 wins range. All right, we're going to continue making the case here, and we're going to go to our AFC wildcard teams. And the next team that we're going to talk about is a team that I think most people think are going to win the division. And I believe they have the highest Vegas win total this year, but it's the Baltimore Ravens. Imagine if I went another direction. I was like, we're going to talk about the AFC North. And no. So we're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens, right? They have some difficult games on this schedule, but when you look through it, it's a lot of easy dubs. It's a lot of games that you can just pencil them in to win, right? And I think Baltimore would probably win most divisions in the NFL. I just happen to be really high on the Bengals, so I have them as a wild card team. But their defense is getting much healthier. It's much healthier. You add Jesse Minter, who had the Chargers, who I don't think had the greatest personnel on the planet. He had that defense looking unbelievable, right? Jesse Minter is a great, like I was just talking about, he's a great defensive guy. He's an animal on defense. And you add Declan Doyle, who I think is a great play caller, and you get a lot of under center and heavy play action style runs with Derrick Henry. Like if you're under center a lot and you hand the ball off a lot to Derrick Henry, I think your team's going to be good at football. I don't really think it matters what it is. If you hand the ball off to Derrick Henry a bunch and you've got a good defense, who am I to say you can't be awesome, right? I expect their defense to be great. They add Trey Hendrickson, who I just said I'm not really that huge on, so that's not really a gigantic needle mover for me, but good addition, obviously. Nnamdi Madubuike is going to be healthy. You have Kyle Hamilton. You have Nate Wiggins. You have Roquan Smith. You have all pros all over that defense. So this could be a Texan-style situation where this is the 2000 Ravens defense. You know what I mean? Jesse Minter can have this defense looking unbelievable. But we got to see, right? You have the departure of John Harbaugh. I think it's John Harbaugh who goes to the Giants. Who knows? Maybe there's a little bit of variance, but you've got a new play caller, you've got a new defensive play caller, or you got new play callers on both sides of the football, right? So there's no guarantee that they're going to be great. You have Lamar Jackson, you have Derrick Henry, and you have 55 All-Pros on defense. I think that the loss of Tyler Linderbaum, that's bigger than you'd think. I think the loss of Tyler Linderbaum really matters. I think that the guy that they drafted, I think it's Vega, the guy that they drafted at guard from Penn State in the draft is going to be fantastic. If positions didn't matter, I think he would have been a top 5 pick. If you just said who's the best at their position coming into the draft, this guy could have been number 1. This guy could have been the number 1 ranked player in the draft. But of course, you're not drafting offensive guard with the number 2 pick. You know, I think their run game is going to look pretty good. The loss of Linderbaum does matter. You got a lot of variables coming in between Minter and Declan Doyle, and you're changing out your center, and you've got new schemes on both sides of the ball. I believe in them. I just don't believe in them more than I believe in the Bengals. But I honestly hope they prove me wrong. I love watching Derrick Henry and Lamar. They're so fun to watch. They paid Zay Flowers $500 trillion, so they must think he's unbelievable. All right. Next on Making the Case, I want to talk about the Denver Broncos, who I have as an AFC wildcard team. Another situation where I think they're going to actually be maybe a better team, but have a worse record, which is the next 2 teams I'm going to talk about. They add Jalen Waddle. That's a big deal. You get Sean Payton and technically actually now Davis Webb, a guy who can get over the top and is a real threat. I don't think that Jalen Waddle's a number 1 receiver. I think everybody else does in the league. I don't think he's a number 1. I think he's very good too. But either way, way better than what they've had going on the last couple of years, right? You do have the loss of Drew Ed Greenlaw and John Franklin Myers, I guess. Those aren't really the biggest deals ever, but I don't really trust the running game. We're going to have to see more from RJ Harvey. I had him in fantasy last year. He was a decent little sleeper towards the end of the year, but nothing really to write home about, right? So we're going to have to see how Davis Webb does. And I'm a Broncos hater, but this defense, who gives a shit you lost Dre Greenlaw and John Franklin Myers? This defense is, again, I'm just talking about defenses through this whole video. They're one of the best defenses in the league. They should finish top 5. They're fantastic, but defense does have a lot of sway from year to year, so I never want to guarantee a defense is going to be the same, but they're on the same level as the Texans, in my opinion. Though that is one hell of a defense. I don't really have much else to talk about with them besides that. I think another year from Bo Nix, probably just, steady, slow improvement. I don't think that he's going to be an MVP candidate. I don't think he's going to be unbelievable, but they have an awesome O-line. They have an awesome D-line. Hopefully they can generate more turnovers this year for how many sacks they got. I don't think they had a ton of turnovers last year, but I mean, if they stay healthy, this team can win a ton of games. So I got them making the playoffs, whether it's wild card or winning the division. But I got them definitely making the playoffs. And the last team that I want to talk about in terms of making a case for the AFC is your Super Bowl second place losers, New England Patriots. They get A.J. Brown. And acquiring A.J. Brown obviously is huge. And I think that A.J. Brown now in a new situation with a coach that he likes, I just don't think he liked Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. And I think that was blatantly obvious, is that he just didn't really trust those 2 guys. And I don't really either, so I don't really blame him. I think that the development of Travion Henderson could be a huge story this year. And like I just said with the Broncos, this is a team that I expect to be a team that improves but does worse, if that makes sense. Like, they're a better team, but I just don't think they're going to, they're not winning 14 games and going to the Super Bowl again. I don't see that. But A.J. Brown and Romeo Doubs, that's a big improvement over what they had at wide receiver last year. Stephon Diggs obviously was good. Kayshon Boutte was good, but let's not act like that was A.J. Brown. You know what I mean? And they get Elijah Vera Tucker, good solid addition to the offensive line. I wanted my Raiders to go get him. They did not, but Tyler Linderbaum, you know what I mean? Hey, I'll live with our O-line addition. And they lost small, less important defensive pieces, but the story of the season for the Patriots, in my opinion, is going to be the offensive line. We're going to see how Will Campbell does. I thought that how bad he was overplayed. He got shit on by the Seahawks. Every team got shit on by the Seahawks defense. That's why they won the Super Bowl, right? So let's not act like Will Campbell getting shit on by, awesome defensive players is the end of the world for this guy's career. If the offensive line is solid, there's no reason they can't be elite top of the league offense, right? My assumption is they're going to be better, but their record is going to be worse. You got a little Super Bowl hangover. I'm feeling 10-7, 11-6, barely, get into the wild card, but not dominate the league kind of team, right? Just at the end of this, we'll throw in a little bit of close calls, honorable mentions, teams that could have made this. To me, the Steelers, I think the Steelers are going to have a great defense. I'm just not really particularly high on them. I think a lot of people shit on Mike McCarthy like they hired some bum. But if you really go look at the resume, there's really no reason he shouldn't be in the same talks as John Harbaugh. We just don't like him as much. But whatever. Jacksonville, I really like Liam Cohen. I think there's going to be another step from Trevor Lawrence, but they lost a lot on defense with losing Devin Lloyd. That to me was a huge loss. And the Chargers, another close call for me. They're the Chargers. The interior O-line's probably going to fall apart, and they lost Jesse Minter, so I think that their defense is probably going to be a little bit disappointing. Offense should be awesome, though. Shout out Mike McDaniel. Justin Herbert's awesome. We'll see if Omari and Hampton can stay healthy, but those would be my close calls.